right, so the next recipe we're gonna move on to is Kathi roll, Indian street food. Everybody loves it, needs very few spices. Traditionally, it was cooked on metal skewers. It would be pieces of meat, slow cooked on metal skewers, and then you wrap it up in a nice paratha or a roti with some chutney and some other garnishes. And that's how it was cooked. Obviously, my version doesn't need skewers. It's a vegetarian version using paneer or the just olipa cheese that we are going to use today. Super easy to make as we get along cooking. I'm gonna tell you guys few ways to make ahead, how this recipe works great for lunch, packing your lunch boxes, or even picnics, or even like a full-fledged dinner. So let's start by making, I'm gonna just move this a little bit so I can show you guys how I marinate the paneer. Again, it just needs few minutes. Super simple recipe. We are going to start by adding, I see this. I'm gonna push it more back. All right, so we're gonna start by adding some ginger and garlic paste. And I know there is ready-made ginger and garlic paste available now, but I really encourage everybody to try making it at home. Super simple. I have the recipe on how to make homemade ginger paste and garlic paste at home. Make it ahead, freeze it, and then you have it anytime you need to cook Indian food. A little bit of plain yogurt. You don't need Greek yogurt. This is just regular plain yogurt. And then to that, I'm gonna add a few spices, starting with turmeric, which everybody is familiar with. Some red chili powder. I like to use this Kashmiri variety, like Vandana was saying. Kashmir is where the Himalayas are, the northern part of the country. That's where these chilies come from. They give a bright red hue to the curries and to the food without adding excess heat, which is amazing. So what we want in this recipe is lots of flavors and not too much heat. So here we go, adding the red chili powder. And then I'm gonna go ahead, add a little bit of garam masala. This is a homemade garam masala. Again, the recipe is on ministryofcurry.com, uses just 5 ingredients. Super easy to make and something that you can make and use for 6 months. Nothing really beats homemade ground spices. Obviously now with all the online stores, you can always buy garam masala at store. But if you're one of those people who loves Indian food, I would highly encourage you try making your own homemade garam masala. And then the last spice, which is kind of optional, but it's nice if you have it, is the kasuri methi, which is dried fenugreek leaves. So the way to release the aromas in this spice is to take the dried leaves on the palm of your hand and just rub it and crush. And then if you guys are cooking, smell it at this point and it's just so aromatic and beautiful, and added this to our bowl. And this is the marinade. The cheese pack that we all received is 8 ounces, which is about a cup. So I'm gonna half the recipe for that. And the only other change I'm doing to my original recipes, I'm not adding any salt because the just jalipa cheese already is salty. So we don't want to make this dish overly salty. The chutney that we are going to use to serve also has salt. So we can totally skip on salt in this recipe and just give this a quick mix. And this is our marinated paneer. Super easy to make. You can always marinate this beforehand. In the summer, if you like, you can make skewers with this marinated paneer and pieces of onions, peppers, throw it on the grill, and it makes for a delicious vegetarian meal. You can serve it with bread, naan bread, or you can serve it with rice. So let's get cooking. Here is our marinated paneer or the just jalipa cheese, and we're gonna start cooking the filling for the Kathi roll. So there are 3 parts to the Kathi roll recipes. One is the filling for which we marinated the cheese. Part 2 is the chutney, the cilantro mint chutney that you guys have the recipe for. You wanna make this ahead of time, freezes beautifully. So now after the summer, if you guys have all that excess mint in your garden, use that to make this chutney. It freezes beautifully. in small portions. And then that way you can have it on any of your Indian recipes. And then the third part is going to be the bread, which I'm going to use a specific variety that's sold in Indian grocery stores, but you can use any tortilla, any, I want to make sure this is all right. You can use any tortilla, you can use any low carb bread options that you like. We just want to be able to roll it up and make it like a blanket to our filling and enjoy it. So let's start to make the filling.
Hey, Archana.
Yes.
So Michelle asked, and Vandana chimed in about this too, but she said she loves making parathas homemade, but what do you think of the Trader Joe's frozen paratha as another option?
Yes, so the if you can make parathas at home, it's obviously not going to beat any store-bought. So that's great. I love that you're making parathas at home. The frozen parathas that are sold in Trader Joe's, I believe, are called Malabar roti, which I like. It's great, but it's so loaded with lots of butter and grease. But there are certain recipes with which it really works out great. And I think that's something you can eat once in a while. Again, I'm sure Vandana can chime in as a nutritionist. It's delicious. It's, to me, just a little on the heavier side. So I prefer using either a different brand of parathas or just use like a low carb tortillas if I'm making this dish often. All right, so we're gonna start by making the filling. Heating a little bit of oil. Again, since we are halving the recipe, we're just gonna need a little bit of everything, and hence the cook time is also going to be less. So I'm adding my sliced red onion and the peppers. Again, the whole point of this dish is to make it pretty, add lots of vegetables of different colors. I love the purple, red, and green, but if you have yellow peppers or orange peppers, or you just have yellow onions, then you can just add those and this recipe still will be great. The other way to load up your Kathi rolls with a lot of veggies is the perfect situation we have right now, where our cheese packets are only 8 ounces. And so we can then still add the same amount of veggies and just add a little bit cheese, and that works totally fine too. So super versatile recipe. You can change it to your liking, whatever flavors you like more, you can add more of that. So I'm just gonna cook this for 2 to 3 minutes. I don't like my veggies super soft. I like if they have a little bit crunch and a bite to them. So we'll cook them on medium heat for like 2 minutes. And then we are going to go ahead and add our marinated paneer to it. And that's going to be our filling. Like I said, super easy. If you're looking for variations on this recipe, I would suggest trying a chicken Kathi roll. Comes out delicious. Same exact process that we did to marinate the cheese. You're gonna use that for chicken. Cut up chicken breasts or chicken thighs into small 1-inch pieces and then marinate them. With chicken, I would probably marinate it a couple hours, maybe even overnight, to get all the flavors in. And then you follow the same exact process. All right, so let's get this all mixed up. And then we are going to add the paneer to the peppers. In the meantime, Anne, do we have any questions?
No new questions coming in. A lot of conversation about the parathas, which is so fun. That I tried them for the first time making this recipe of yours, and they are absolutely delicious. I think, Archana, you had recommended Kawan parathas. Was that the brand? Those were really yummy. And
yeah,
I was able
so they
to
are a little
them.
bit thinner than the Malabar roti. And they come in different variations now. They come in whole wheat, they come in like a low GI, and then they come in like the regular and flaky variety. But I like the size of it, and it really works well for the Kathi roll recipe. Again, if you're making it homemade, that totally works too.
Yeah, and I was going to mention Archana's mint cilantro chutney recipe is also available on unbottled.com and then also on her website, ministryofcurry.com as well. And it is also delicious.
Yeah. All right, so we have the peppers cooking. You're just gonna cook until they are like a tiny bit soft. And then to that, I'm gonna add our marinated red cheese. And I actually turned off my heat because I found that with this cheese, sometimes if you cook it at high heat, it can start to melt. So at this point, you just wanna turn it off and cook just until your cheese is heated through and nicely mixed in. I'm hoping some of you guys are actually cooking along and smelling all of these amazing aromas. I'm like, literally my mouth is watering as I'm cooking this. Smells so good. It's packed with flavors. Looks so pretty colorful.
Archana, Michelle just asked, is there no difference between roti and paratha?
Oh, there is a difference between roti and paratha. Again, within just roti itself, I feel has so many meanings. So for us who grew up in Western India, roti is like a whole wheat, thin bread. But in some parts of Northern India, roti can mean a thick bread that's cooked in the tandoor. So they call it tandoor roti, while the roti we make is on the pan. And the main difference between roti and paratha to me is paratha is usually layered dough that you roll with like oil and flour in the middle, or sometimes other fillings stuffed in and then you roll. So there could be a rolled paratha or there could be a layered paratha, while roti most of the times is just a piece of dough that you rolled thin or thick and then cooked. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. All right, so here is our filling. It's all ready, and I love to garnish it with lots of cilantro. I know some people are not fans of cilantro, in which case you guys can skip it or add your favorite herb that you like. And that's basically our filling. Super easy recipe. As a meal prep, you can make the filling ahead of time and fill in your Kathi rolls when you're ready to eat. So really works out when you have a busy schedule. I'm gonna go ahead and take this out in a little serving bowl so we can start assembling. But in the meantime, I'm also going to warm up one of the parathas that I recommend for this recipe and show you guys how the packaging looks. And so that way, if you guys are interested, you can pick it up next time you're in your Indian grocery stores. All right, so let's get a new pan. I'm gonna grab the paratha from the freezer because if I keep it out, it does tend to get all soft and then it gets a little bit harder to handle. So let's take out the paratha. Just give me 1 second. All right, so these are the parathas I'm gonna use. You guys can see it. Maybe I'll hold it down here. Kawan parathas, and they come kind of individually wrapped in little baggies. So let's go ahead and warm up one just so I can show you how to assemble the Kathi rolls. Here we go, just gonna put it on the pan. And then we're just gonna cook this on both the sides. And then in the meantime, I'm gonna get all of my other ingredients that I'm gonna use to assemble this Kathi roll ready. So got a little plate. Sliced onions, yellow or red. I love the crunch of fresh onions. I know some people may not like onions. I absolutely love them. So I like to add a little bit of onion on top. If you want to skip it, you totally can skip. And if you like other garnishes like carrots or you know, anything else that you want to load up as a topping, you totally can do that. Some cilantro, and then the cilantro mint chutney, which is one of my favorite condiments to have. I'm sure Vandana is going to talk all about the condiments and how we serve them in Indian cuisine. But chutney, if you guys have been to an Indian restaurant, I'm sure you've seen a green chutney often served complimentary when you walk in with the papad or with samosas. And I love that it's kind of healthy. It's loaded with all the herbs. I use some green chili and ginger. Again, not overly spicy, but just packed with flavor. And then I also love to add a little bit of fresh coconut to it. That gives it a nice body. So that's how the chutney looks. And again, this was frozen. I made it earlier in the summer, and then I freeze them in like these little silicone ice cube trays. And then you can just pop out 1 or 2 or 3 of the ice cubes as you need them to make your recipes. All right, so I'm gonna wait until this bottom side is fully cooked and then flip it over. The best part about this paratha is it already has enough butter and oil in it, so you don't really need to add any. It just will start releasing all of the oils in it as it's cooking. So flip this guy over. We're gonna cook both the sides. In the meantime, if there are any questions, happy to answer.
Yeah, Archana, so how do you know when to flip it? What are you looking for?
Okay, so when we put it down, it looked all white like the raw paratha. I'm gonna show you one. When we put it, it kind of looked all white like that. See that?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I flipped, it already had started to look like a lightly yellow translucent on one side from all these, like the bottom side. So I flipped it over it takes about 3 to 4 minutes. Obviously, I'm using this induction heat that takes like longer for the pan to heat up. But once you get going, it takes about 3 to 4 minutes for each paratha. And you wanna cook them just until both the sides are golden brown. And the first flip, you don't want to do it too early on, because if your dough is kind of soft, it gets all difficult to like flip it over because it's still so soft. Once the bottom side gets partially cooked, then it's super easy to flip it over like that. So again, we're just going to cook both the sides. And then you can just gently press them down so they cook evenly. Yeah, go ahead, Anne.
Oh yeah, no, sorry to cough. I did notice too, it was really important to take them out of the freezer right before so it didn't get sticky like you mentioned.
Yeah,
So
otherwise they tend to stick to the paper and then it's hard to take it out. But this way, you know, they're still like hard as rock and you can just like peel it off and then put it in there. But then once the bottom side starts to cook, they do tend to get really soft. So you want to then give it extra couple minutes for it to cook.
Okay.
Again, like, I don't know like the age group of all the audience, but I have teenage kids, and this is one of the recipes that's so easy that they can even make it. So just want to like encourage kids and people of all ages to try this recipe. And like I said, you can very easily change the spice levels. All right, so here we are, nice and golden brown on both the sides. And I'm just gonna turn off the heat and move my pan so I can show you guys how I assemble this. All right, so start by taking a plate. All right. And then I'm gonna place the paratha on the plate and take maybe 2 teaspoons of the chutney and spread it all around. And then in the middle of it, I'm gonna put in my cheese filling, and then all the peppers and onions. And then you can garnish with whatever you like on the top. I'm gonna put in raw red onions. You can use yellow onions, or feel free to skip onions altogether. And just a little bit fresh cilantro for the crunch. And then we're gonna take the two sides and roll them up like that. And that's your paratha.
Beautiful.
Kathi roll, super easy to make, such a versatile recipe. You can use cheese, you can use chicken, you can use both. I do a lot of time paneer and chicken together, and that tastes delicious. But this is such a great dish, packed with proteins for vegetarians too, and it also has all the veggies. It tastes so good. This is kind of hot, but you can also wrap this up in parchment paper and then cut it into half. And then I often serve that as appetizers for parties. And people love that too. But this makes for a great appetizer, a lunch, and a dinner.